Welcome to Cultural Podcast, where we explore interesting practices across the world. In today's episode, we're diving into the fascinating and bizarre world of ancient Egyptian medicine. We will uncover the mysteries behind these ancient practices. What drove the Egyptians to use these methods? How did they come to believe in their effectiveness? We will answer these questions and more, shedding light into the world of both mesmerizing and mysterious. The views and opinions expressed by the host are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of the institution or its officials. In this episode, we will explore some unusual and potentially unsettling remedies used in ancient Egyptian medicine. The discussion may include descriptions of historical medical practices involving unconventional methods and ingredients. Listeners' discretion is advised, particularly for those sensitive to the discussion of historical medical practices or graphic details. Prepare to travel back time with me as we delve into the enigmatic world of ancient Egypt. I am Jacquelyn Chingcuangco, your host, and I am thrilled to introduce to you our guests, Ms. Cielo Sulat and Ms. Lizbeth Placido. They are the College of Medicines, where they study institutional practices, ethics, and medical profession.
Hi everyone, it's fun and exciting here to be with you.
Hello everyone, I am Lizbeth Placido. Thank you so much for having us, Miss Jacqueline. It's an honor to be here.
Once again, welcome to Cultural Podcast. Today we're going to talk about odd medical practices of ancient Egypt. And this episode is entitled Unraveling the Oddities, particular medical practices of in ancient Egypt.
With Spotify Premium. Tap the banner to learn more.
So, we're going to talk about the odd medical practices of ancient Egyptians. But before we uncover some of the strangest remedies and treatments, let me ask you something. What images or ideas comes into your mind when you talked about ancient Egyptians?
Ancient Egyptian, of course, we cannot forget about their structures.
Yes, structures.
Yes, and also when I think of ancient Egyptians, I think of the deserts.
Yeah, deserts.
Yeah, of
yes.
course, without camels.
Camels.
Yes. And aside from the deserts, I also think of the mummies.
Yes, mummies.
And also the famous one, the pharaohs.
And of course, we should not forget the famous Cleopatra.
I think Cleopatra is one of the pharaoh, right?
Yes.
Yes, and I am thinking the same thing of all the things about the desert structures. But how about a general perspective?
General perspective, I envision a civilization. I mean, basically, advancement. Looking at their famous structures and many more.
Yes.
Yes, and with addition to that, I also think of their country's impressive architectural features such as the pyramids and the temples.
Yes, pyramids and temples.
Afterlife, the intricate burial practices of ancient Egyptians.
Yes, in the afterlife.
And of course, the skilled people in various fields such as the mathematics, agriculture, and medicine.
Yes, gosh, did you just both read the history of Egypt before you come here?
Why?
Because I have nothing to add more. I mean, you've stated it all. Anyway, going back, since you've already mentioned it, let's talk about their medical practices. Have you heard any medical practices from ancient Egyptians that we are practicing right now?
We are practicing right now. I think that circumcision.
Circumcision.
Practicing right now, I guess dentistry.
Yes,
Dentistry and as well as surgery.
Surgery, yes. And all of that was, yes, that's right. All of that was medical practices from ancient Egyptians that we practice now. But despite their incredible advancement in engineering, embalming, and their medical advancements, as you both mentioned a while ago, some of their medical practices are quite questionable.
Yes.
Let me give you a hint. What would you do when your treatment is more disgusting than your disease? The ancient medicine that we're going to explore in this episode is the use of animal dung ointment. Believe it or not, in ancient Egypt, fly, gazelle, donkey, dog, and even cow dung are used for supposed healing properties, from healing or from treating wounds to warding off evil spirits. In other words, animal dung or poop were used in treating wound. So basically, in this practice, the animal dung is put on an open wound as an ointment. So, can you imagine using animal dung as an ointment for your wounds, as it was believed that it could cure all ailments and ward off evil spirits?
Honestly with you guys, I cannot imagine using a dung as my ointment. Like, why? Because there's a lot of unwanted substances in that dung that may trigger more your wounds. But, I'll give it a shot.
I completely understand that sort of hesitation. How about you, Miss Lizbeth?
Using animal dung or feces for treating wounds. Well, if you would ask me to picture that certain thing, my initial reaction would be like, OMG, like for real?
Right, diba? It sounds surprising.
Like, however we think of that, as we think more and delve into that, even I might be disgusted when they learn about that, yet it might sound surprising.
Yeah.
But in ancient Egypt, using animal dung for healing was quite common.
Really? Quite common. Can you enlighten us with that?
Like ancient Egyptians, they thought it could cure diseases and protect against evil spirits. While this seems unusual now, it shows how their medicine and spirituality were closely linked. We cannot deny the fact that most of the people in medicine doesn't believe in evil spirits, right?
Yes.
But this ancient practice reveals a unique way of blending health and the supernatural belief of Egyptians people.
I do agree with that. It shows how diverse and complex our understanding of health has been throughout history.
Yes, I agree with that as well. Well, to be honest, I find it strange and quite disgusting, and I think others might feel the same, right? Especially knowing that here in their country, Philippines, we don't practice anything like that. But of course, it is very important for us to remember that every country has its unique or sometimes unusual customs that stem from our ancestors and cultural heritage.
Yes, of course.
And with that being said, I just also want to share my other viewpoint regarding this.
Okay.
Because, despite finding the idea of dung ointment odd, I also find it intriguing because I have thought that the use of dung might have, had practical reasons behind it, possibly linked to the medicinal properties they believe it contained. Or, it could have been a method to create a protective barrier over the wounds. But, as someone was studying in the medical field, we are bound to, encounter unfamiliar practices from other cultures like this one in Egypt. And, I am just thrilled to delve deeper into their history that led to its development.
Yeah, of course. As someone studying in medical field, both of you encountered this kind of unfamiliar practices, right?
Yes.
And I love how our discussion flows at this as it creates space to learn about different customs and traditions from different parts of the world. Even if some of them might seem a bit odd or strange to us, Miss Lizbeth emphasized a while ago the importance of approaching these differences with an open mind and showing respect for others, for other culture. While it may not align with our own practices, it's a reminder of a diversity that exists globally. Moving forward, looking at our literature, an Egyptologist named Sophie Smith discovered and analyzed an ancient medical papyrus dating back 350 years. This A4-size document or literature contains an interesting recipe for treating trichiasis. It is a condition characterized by ingrown eyelashes. Smith discovered a blend of particular elements such as bull fat, bat blood, and lizard dung. She found this medical knowledge across different civilizations fascinating, especially the continued use of specific ingredients, this kind of ingredients. And this ointment made from animal dung uncovers the fascinating medical practices of ancient Egypt and the lasting influence on medicine. So, with that being mentioned, may I ask if you have, encountered any similar practices like this in other countries?
I actually know one country.
Yeah, Miss Lizbeth, can you elaborate that with us? We would love to hear that from you.
Okay, so, upon searching for this medicinal practice in Egypt, of course, I wonder if other countries share similar practices. So, I tried to look for further articles and research regarding this topic. And upon searching, I have found a research about the medical use of dung or fecal matter in China approximately 1,700 years ago. And the Chinese doctors have accumulated unique and invaluable medical experience in the use of this dung or fecal materials. And I have read that the commonly used dung or fecal medicines are from animals like flying squirrels, bats, silkworms, wild boar, and vultures. And this dung or fecal medicines were commonly used to treat diseases like gastrointestinal, the nervous system, the skin, and also the gynecological diseases.
Wow, so even China uses this kind of practice, huh?
Yes.
And here we really see with that sharing of or with that research, we can really see how different cultures have utilized natural resources in the medicine throughout the history. It's fascinating to learn about the unique medical practices in China from 1700s. Anyway, thank you for that, Ms. Lizbeth, for that research finding you have.
Yes.
Moreover, so like back in ancient Egypt, the use of animal dung for sort of things in medicines, treating infections or wounds, so we can see here that they really believe in the power of poop or poop,
Yeah.
But nowadays, there's a big challenge with this practice because people are kind of grossed out of the idea of using dung as a medicine. So even though it has been proven effective over time, as Miss Lizbeth supported that with evidences, it can be challenging to convince people to embrace it right now. I mean, nowadays.
Yeah.
So, I'd like to ask, how is this animal dung used in Egyptian medicine, and what challenges does this face?
In addition to what you've mentioned, according to my research, animal dung, especially from cows, has long been used in traditional ointments to treat skin issues and also infections. However, nowadays, many people see it as dirty or outdated. There's a lot of stigma around using something like dung in medicine, even though it's been effective for generations.
Yeah, so this animal dung ointment is really a medical practice in Egypt.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, as I observe with this, it's just crazy how things that once common practice are now considered as taboo. It just goes to show how perception can change over time. It makes you wonder what other traditional remedies are out there that have been overlooked.
Yeah, that's right. This is likely when the stigma and stereotype begins, right? When people discover that the ointment came from Egypt, they may have mistakenly believed that, it contained undesirable or unappealing substances.
Since you've mentioned about the stigma, indeed, the stigma and stereotype surrounding dung-based treatment are complex issues that often stem from cultural beliefs and taboos. Some people may view this treatment as unhygienic or primitive, while others may see this as a traditional and effective form of medicine. I'd like to ask, what are your thoughts on the stigma and stereotypes surrounding this dung-based treatment?
I think, in my perspective, the stigma is rooted in modern stereotype that label traditional practices as primitive. Like, dung is seen as unclean, so people are hesitant to use it despite its historical effectiveness. Like, this negative perception, largely driven by Western medical standards, it often prevents people from appreciating and also utilizing these traditional remedies.
Yeah, it's so unfortunate how society sometimes, how can society sometimes look down on traditional practices just because they're different or odd as it sounds. And sadly, Asian remedies aren't give the chance they deserve because of this preconceived notion.
So, from a medical perspective, it's important to approach traditional practices with an open mind while also considering scientific evidence. Why? Because animal dung ointments have been used historically in various cultures that include Egypt for their perceived medicinal properties and Modern medical practices, it emphasized the need for treatment to be supported by rigorous scientific research to ensure the
Of
safety
course.
and also the efficacy of the patients, right? While it's very important and essential to respect cultural practices and understand their historical and contextual significance, it's also crucial to evaluate them through the lens of contemporary medical science.
Yes.
This means examining whether such treatments are safe, is it effective and hygienic by current standards? And stigma often arises from misunderstanding or lack of knowledge. So, fostering dialogue and research can help bridge the gap between traditional practices
Yes.
and modern medical standards,
Yes.
ensuring that patients receive the best possible care while respecting their cultural
Of
backgrounds.
course. And I totally agree with you. It's important to blend cultural tradition with modern medical knowledge to ensure the best care for our patients or for the patients. And by opening up dialogue and continued research, we can find a balance that respect both sides while prioritizing, of course, the safety and efficiency.
Yes.
It's all about finding the right mix to provide the best healthcare possible. Anyway, thank you so much for your time, Miss Cielo and Miss Lizbeth.
Thank you for having us here,
Of course.
our beautiful host,
Thank
for
you.
giving us the opportunity to share our medical perspective. And guys, let's bridge the gap.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Miss Jacquelyn. We
Thank you
really had, a great time
Yes.
discussing this unusual yet very interesting topic and hoping that we can discuss more topics like this here in your podcast. Again, thank you so much for having us.
As we conclude this episode, Unraveling the Oddities, particular medical practices in ancient Egypt, exploring the ancient Egyptian use of animal dung as a medicine has shed light on the intricate intersection between health and spirituality in different cultures. By examining these practices with curiosity and respect, we gain a deeper appreciation for the diversity of beliefs and traditions around the world. It serves as a reminder to approach differences with an open mind, recognizing the rich tapestry of human history and understanding. Thank you for joining us on this enlightening journey through ancient healing practices.